Welcome to our new episode of Speak Revenue. Remember, revenue is not a goal, it's a result. But a result of what? In this show, we turn our eyes from the output towards the input. We speak to sales leaders and entrepreneurs about their journeys. Join us on our quest to uncover and learn the root causes of success. Let's unpack what works for them and what didn't. Today, with our guest, Martin Scholz. Hi, Martin. Great to have you. Thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Thomas. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So let's get started right away. Please give us a quick introduction of yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What makes you so successful?
I try to keep it short. So in the last 15 years, I found my way into an area of business development when business development was still literally the business development and not the hard job of making appointments for account executives, which was about, entering new markets, whether geographically, vertically, or customer segment. And a lot of that turned out to happen with partnerships. My next job in the next startup was then already called SVP Partnerships. And over the last 15 years, I realized I had a chance to found a lot of great partnerships, which drove significantly the success of the companies I worked for. Made a lot of mistakes, which I had a chance to learn from. Luckily, there were more successes than failures. So ultimately, I realized, hey, seems like I gathered some knowledge, which is not so unique, or which is quite unique and not so much available in the market. So together with Bernard, who's my co-founder and partner in crime, we decided to put our knowledge to the market as industry experts to help specifically B2B SaaS companies to be more efficient in their growth by using the power of partnerships.
Do you think partnerships as a sales channels are still underestimated?
Absolutely. Not only as a sales channel, this is one of the first things we try to educate and enlighten the people. It's not about having someone else selling your product.
Okay.
This can happen. Actually, this is the hardest thing to achieve. And this is probably the reason why still 80% of partnerships fail, because sales leaders say, oh yeah, let's do some channel. I heard that works awesome. Yeah, 30% of list price, off they go, and then they wait to collect the money. But as the title of the show says, revenue is not the goal of partnerships, it's the result. So what do you actually need to do to make it successful? And are there other ways, smarter ways, which are fitting much better to your current go-to-market to utilize the power of partnerships in various ways to help not only your sales team or your revenue team, maybe help your marketing team, maybe help your product team, maybe help your customer success team to reach their goals, which ultimately lead to, reach the revenue goal for the company, or maybe the EBIT goal, because ultimately today it's very much more about capital efficient growth and not revenue at all cost, how it used to be. So there's way more to partnerships than just channel.
Okay. Sounds like it's about integrating the partner a little bit into the own business. So maybe you could go into this a bit more, into detail a bit more. How do you make this happen?
It's a very good question. So as I said, if you compare that to 5 years ago, partnership was something like a second thought or a third thought, or something you would do when you had enough time or too much resources, which we know hardly ever happen in a startup scale-up environment. But if you look, more recently in the last 12, 24 months, there are people which are way less biased than I am, who say, hey, partnerships is absolutely crucial for the success of a company. Sarah Wang from Andreessen Horowitz says our top portfolio companies, for them, partnerships is a revenue driver number one and a priority driver number one. It's not an afterthought anymore, right? There are Gardner and McKinsey who have studies about the power of ecosystem, etc. The magic here is to understand what do you want to actually achieve. And I think the reason why, I even, come across that podcast and reached out to you guys was I definitely couldn't agree more with the tagline, revenue is not the goal. Now, if we run the Partner Academy, the academy where we train partner folks, my first question is always like, what is your goal? And shockingly, still 9 out of 10 tell me revenue is the goal. And then, well, the answer, right? Revenue is not the goal. So what do you actually need to do, should do to achieve that result of revenue? Do we talk about net new revenue? Do we talk about retention revenue? Do we talk about reducing customer acquisition costs, which is actually not revenue, right? It's leading to having your revenue with less cost. These are the things which you can all achieve as partnership, depending on what your company is doing. So first rule is always like, okay, hey, leadership, what do you want to achieve? And does that even fit to the characteristics and the environment of the product and your own company?
All right. I saw that you've created a framework or established a framework to get partnerships working. Maybe you could give us an overview on this and how do you get started? First of all, how to get started to get the commitment of both sides to work together, to collaborate successfully. And how do you make it successful? How do you leverage it the right way? Maybe it
All
depending
right.
if you focus on a specific case, if there are different approaches.
The general approach we take or the framework is first, we make a 3-step approach to make sure that one of the things we heard from leaders and also investors was like, yeah, partnerships, I don't know, you need to invest and then they have 2 years of black box and only then you see the results, which is basically wrong,
Yeah.
which is wrong in a way because they're looking on KPIs they know from other channels, maybe sales KPIs. And if your KPI is revenue, that might take 2 years until you see it in your Salesforce reporting, whether or not, what is the partner source, partner influence, partner driven revenue. But it doesn't, by no means, it's the 2 years a black box because there are a lot of things happening in between. The comparison, if we stick to the sales channel or sales partnerships, which are, I guess, the one the audience probably is most familiar with. If you think about building up your channel of partners who bring your product to the market, I always try to compare it with hiring a new sales team, right? If
Makes
you
sense.
want to hire a new sales team, you need to recruit this person. Or, when she or he maybe has 3-4 months notice period, or if you start today, you just make the decision today to launch that, you know that you probably spend 3-4 months until you have this person hired.
Right.
Same goes with the partner. Just because you decide today you want to do a channel partner doesn't mean that the channel partner is ready tomorrow. So you need to recruit that partner. It's not a partner set, it's partner recruitment. You need to recruit the same way or similar way like you would recruit an employee. The day the person signs the employee's contract, they don't produce. Same time, just because somebody signs a partner contract, they don't produce immediately. It's totally natural for you to invest in an onboarding for your employee. Whether it's co-selling, whether you're shadowing him, whether or her, or whether you have a professional onboarding program, you definitely have a ramp-up period. You have somebody responsible to get this person on speed. But for partners, it's very often, they send a partner contract. So let's wait until they send the money. Not going to work.
Yes.
You need to invest in them as well. Because for your employee, their primary goal is to close deals for you. That's their job description. The partner runs his own business. It's not their business to sell your deals. So why would they? That's one of the core questions. Like, why would they even consider bringing your product to the market? What's in for them? It's a mutual relationship. There's not much of a transaction in there. And even then, if you have recruited the partner, you invested in onboarding the partner, even then this partner will have some kind of sales cycle because they need to generate their own pipeline. They need to bring their prospects through the sales cycle, similar like yours. So if you look into your own hiring and you say, okay, I decided today that I want to extend or build up my sales team, you know that it will take 6, 9, 12 months until this decision you take today yield results in significant revenue driven by that additional salesperson. And this is one of the first lessons we try to educate the sales leaders. If you go down the channel road, keep in mind that it's a similar way. There are other partnerships which kick off faster. So that's clear so far?
Yes, of course. Yeah. And
Okay,
we are
cool.
really focusing on B2B SaaS specifically, right?
We do focus on B2B SaaS.
Mhm.
We realized that actually the framework we developed worked for B2C or
Okay.
B2B non-SaaS. There's actually an ISO norm, which hardly anybody knows, ISO 44001, which is called ISO norm for collaborative working. And my co-founder Bernard is actually the associate director for the ICW, which is the institute for that norm in Germany. And when we put the frameworks to the P3 framework for B2B SaaS partnerships and the ISO norm framework for collaborative working next to each other, we found like an 80+% overlap. There are some things which are on the ISO norm, which you need when you're working in a corporate environment, which our customers typically are not, startup scale-ups typically. But the base underlying framework is all the same. So coming back to the framework, how we start that, we start by being the devil's advocate for the leadership team and ask, hey, Thomas, you want to do partnerships for your company. What do you want to have? And if the answer is revenue, well, then we have a topic, right? Then we say, well, this is not going to be specific enough. So what is the actual goal? Do you want to increase your customer lifetime value? Do you want to decrease your customer acquisition cost? Are you maybe looking into reducing your post-sale costs and avoiding building up a huge solution engineering team, which is helping implementing and adopting your software? Think about Adobe or Salesforce. Their successful partnerships are predominantly in the system integrator space, which implement solutions to the customers. It's not Salesforce doing the implementation. It's one of the many solution partners. Or are there other things you want to achieve? And this is the general idea, is like having like a half a day workshop with the leadership team to really develop a partner hypothesis or the partner notion. The rough idea, what do we want to achieve? Do we have somebody in mind who could potentially be interested in? Do we have any convincing partner value proposition for them? Why should they care? And do we have a rough estimation how fast do we need the results and how much of the results do we want to have? And now we're setting the stage of, hey, what could be the result of doing this initiative? And it's a first breaking point. There could be the result that they say, well, it takes too long, or we need to invest too much. We have to have other priorities for the now. We need to postpone it. That's fair enough. Then better don't start then trying to do something half-hearted. If they do agree to having this first hypothesis, this rough idea, this back of an envelope or back of a napkin business plan, then we say, okay, let's take that to the next stage and be more specific and create a real go-to-market plan.
Okay.
And really create this detail and see what are the timelines, what are the resources needed, headcount, budget, can we validate this on the market, having the first conversations with potential partners and see if the ideas which we had in the boardroom or in the leadership room are actually have a market fit. With that, we create a second stage where we have within a 2 or 3 year plan, which will be wrong. It's a plan. It will be wrong.
Yeah.
But at least we have something which guides us and which can be presented to leadership and maybe to the board to get the buy-in to have the expectations set correctly. Partnerships is always a little bit of a midterm play, not the quick win. Somebody tells you partnerships for growth hacking, forget it. They are lying. Snake oil. Yeah. But if you don't start today, you will have a problem with your budget in 2 years. If you start today, partnerships will be your driver for maybe 12 months, maybe 18 months, maybe 24 months for sure. And if that's then agreed, then we have the company to actually put on the road and execute it, build the team, win the first partners, et cetera, et cetera.
Talking about results and goals, do you see the typical goals set for companies in different stages, or is it very individual from company to company when talking about SaaS, B2B?
It's very different. Let me give you a quick example from my own history. So my first startup was Searchmetrics, an SEO company or platform for search engine optimization. One of the strongest channels for us were digital marketing agencies, which use the Searchmetrics platform to, work with their clients on optimizing their search engine performance.
Okay.
I did that for 6 years. We built a global agency program. We had all the big ones. It took us a long time, but it's not a money printing machine, but close to it, right? And then I switched and went to Ual. It's a local marketing solution. It helps companies to manage their location data on Google Maps and Apple Maps and Facebook, etc. So if you want to check where's the next Starbucks and if they still has open, you need to manage that data.
Okay.
And Uber is a fantastic way to do that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of companies would outsource that still to an agency. It is actually within a digital marketing agency, again, a bit of the SEO team, which was the first point of contact, even though the challenge for Uber was that it's more than just SEO. Challenge was Uber is a little bit of a plug and play solution. You set it up once, it's not very complicated, and then a lot of the stuff works smoothly automatically, which is nice for us as a product, but bad for our agency partners who cannot charge a lot of service money around it. Right. So even if we had the same ICP, even if we had a similar IPP, we realized due to the nature of the product, the methodology which worked or the program which worked fantastically for such metrics didn't work for overall. We needed to come up with a new way adjusted to the product. Right? So much depends. And that's why so many partnerships fail, because some founder talks to another founder and they had on the founders dinner and they say, oh yeah, these guys run amazingly with partnerships. Let's copy that. Well, not going to work.
Seems like you need to know much more about each other than just what you get during one dinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say, or do you have any recommendation of at what stage B2B SaaS companies should start engaging in partnership relationships, or any minimum requirements you think should be fulfilled?
Very good question. First thing I have to say, it always depends. Again, partnerships are so unique, so diverse. It's why it's so interesting to work in that space, because you have always new ways and you can, come up with new ideas. But in the more than 80% rule, it would be that typically a company should have found their ICP. They should have found their go-to-market and product market fit. They should know who to buy to and what is the value proposition of the product. Because if you don't know who you want to sell to, how would you find a partner who could help you to drive that sales, right? Whether it's a channel or whether it's in marketing, you would need to know, okay, who's my ICP and who is a partner who could help me to work with that ICP. So that typically translates, if we stick to the American standard, it would be late Series A, early Series B, would be a good point to consider this. Sometimes you have companies or clients which look for product partnerships earlier. What are product partnerships? It's a way to take pressure from your roadmap, from your development team, from your product team, and you say, hey, this is my core product. There's a feature which is missing, and our customer, the prospect, telling us we should have XYZ, but it's not core to our solution. Do I want to reinvent the wheel, or do I go down the road to find another product company which becomes my partner, completing my solution? Think about the car industry and the OEM part. Now, BMW does not produce the gear shifts themselves anymore.
Yes.
Right? They have somebody who specializes in that, who does build this solution and the part according to their specification and requirements. But BMW does not produce it themselves anymore, because it's maybe not the core of their car design anymore. Especially in that space, it might be a good idea to start earlier, because one of the power of partnerships you can always achieve is speed to market. You can be much faster on the market if you don't build everything yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, the cliche is, right, not built here, but sometimes it's better to leave it to the experts and focus on what is really the unique selling proposition, the disruptive part of your solution.
Okay. Yes. Several years ago, I was told something like, don't start partnerships if you don't have at least 1 million MR. So it looks like it's a bit more complex.
Yeah, I would immediately ask, okay, what's the average deal size, right? I talked to founders who had a very niche, high-end multinational product where they had 2-3 customers and they were above the 1 million, but it was not a repeatable sales process because it was very customized solutions. And then on the other hand side, you have companies which have focusing on the SMB space where you need quite a lot of clients to get 1 million. So there might be a way that you want to find partners who help to bring your product to the market way earlier to achieve that scale.
Yeah.
In such metrics, we partnered with Ionos, one-on-one, where we built a custom version of the SEO, like a super, super lightweight SEO tool. Like I was compared, like we had the Formula One racing car, right? Which only 10 people on the world could drive, because it was really state of the art, all the details. And then we need to bring that down to what would be the Volkswagen Golf equivalent, which like guy like me would use to bring the kids to the school or the grocery home, right? So what are the few things? Every Golf today has an ABS and ESR systems, which are developed originally for the Formula One. So what are the features which you really want to have in your family car? And then we achieved a huge scale with that strategic partnership with one-on-one Ionos, where we brought our solution, well, actually, pieces of that, to a complete different segment with the power of a partner. We would never have been able to sell it ourselves into that market. We were totally relying, and that was what they brought in. We brought in the expertise on the SEO part. They brought in the customer base and the market knowledge and the marketing knowledge, how to place that solution, how to design it first, and then how to put it towards that particular customer group.
So you really need to think about how to adapt properly to make it work for different business partnerships. Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you think after talking about what is the right way to start with a partnership? Are there any signals you would mention, any signs to stop, to quit a partnership?
Yeah. I think one of the things which we tend to forget is that most 99% our partners have their own business. And their business is not necessary to have our business. So even great partnerships which work nicely for 3, 4, 5 years may come to a situation where one or both companies have pivoted in their strategy, pivoted in their focus, set other priorities. And typically you see that coming, but the goals are not aligned anymore.
Yeah.
And there's no mutual goal for this partnership. And then it's a good way to say, hey, look, we had a great time. Let's see how we can part ways in the same professional and collaborative manner, how we used to work in the last 5 years. So this is for the times when you say, hey, we had a good time. But there are also partnerships which never had a good time. Like in real life, sometimes you have toxic relations. And it's the same like in real life, you need to stop them as fast as possible because they are toxic, right? How do you distinguish that? At Uber, we developed, Bernard and I worked together, and we came up with the 3 C's of partner qualification. So don't start a partnership which probably will become toxic. Like in sales, don't qualify, disqualify it as fast as possible. Don't waste your time with prospects which will not deliver. It's even harder for partnerships because in sales, you always have this trigger of, will they pay me money? And if they are not ready to pay you the money, then you have a very clear trigger to say yes, no. Partnership contracts, on the other side, very often by default, do not include a financial obligation. So you have the situation that people sign partnership contracts very easily because they sit patiently on the shelf. If nothing happened. So nobody has to pay anybody, nothing lost. This is toxic because you invest time in this partnership. You probably try to onboard this person. You spend time to convince them, to get them excited. And all they do is like, yeah, I don't care. So we looked at 3 things. And the 3 things we had was customer base. Apparently the partner should service the same customer base you're looking for, right? It should be fitting. And the customer base should be relevant for you. What does mean relevant? Well, if you're an SMB space, they probably should have 10,000 of customers. If you're a high-end multinational customer working with the biggest multinational brands, then maybe 10 customers are already very attractive because each of them would be a huge ticket for you. So again, very much depends on your business. That needs to be relevant to your business.
Right.
Number 2 would be the credibility. Your partner would need to be credible to talk about your product with that prospect. What do I mean by that? We had some occasions where I always say that example. Look, I go to a baker around the corner to grab my bread rolls for the Sunday morning. And this guy would out of a sudden start trying to sell me printer cartridges. I would look at him strangely, right? I mean, it's the same ICP. Everybody in the neighborhood has a printer at home. So it's great ICP. You could argue it's the same buying persona, but I don't want my baker to have dirty fingers from handling toner cartridges, right? If this guy would try to sell me a butter knife or bread knife, I totally understand that. I would say he's competent. He can recommend me which knife I should use to, cut up my bread rolls more easily. So credibility explained in a simple example.
Yeah.
The third one is capability. Are they capable to do that? That has something to do with processes, infrastructure. Can they build a client? Can they support them? They need to support them, etc., etc. Depending on the partnership, capability can be very easy. Sometimes it's pretty challenging. If you think about you want to integrate a solution, they probably need to have an API. If they don't have an API, they're just not capable to connect to your software easily. And we ran with the 3 C's, and we had one which scored pretty mediocre on 1 or 2 of them and became rockstar partners. And we had others which scored extremely high on all these 3 parameters, and they didn't produce. And it took us quite some time. It was one of the hard learnings we had was, damn it, we missed the 4th and the most important one. the one and most important fourth element should be the first is commitment.
Right.
Do they commit to the partnership? If they don't commit to your partnership, then you can do whatever you want. It won't fly. If they do not score very high on the other ones, but they are committed, they want to go into this customer base, or they are ready to invest in building this capability, or they will upskill themselves to earn the credibility. All of that can be changed. But if the commitment is not there, you're screwed. The commitment is the hardest to track.
Yeah. Would you like to add something on this?
I know, it's just saying this is the challenging thing is the first three you can do desktop research, you can ask them, but commitment is like a soft skill, much softer.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you have a recommendation in cases where the SaaS solution is something very new? Maybe has potential to disrupt a market or even opening a new market, and nobody has a lot of experience on this. Maybe ICP is similar or the same of the partner, of the solution service partner. How do you overcome this? Is there a secret recipe of onboarding partnerships or partners for very new SaaS B2B companies with a very new solution?
Yep. It's actually one of the other typical mistakes I've seen. So things you should not do. If you want to find partners to bring your product to the market, typically there are three things why people would partner up. Basically do any kind of business decision especially B2B SaaS. It's status, it's time savings, or improvement of a commercial situation. So more money, more revenue, less cost. These are three drivers why people buy something. In that case, where you really have this new innovative solution, which doesn't have a market yet, where you need to create the market, but you might have a potential be disrupted. Nobody knows if they can sell along that, right? There's no, if you partner with us, you can write so many hours for services. But that's one thing you can trigger, especially in that case. It's the status. It's the status of the partner where they can position themselves as thought leaders. I actually talked to one of my clients, which is in that space. We say, well, the thing is you need to find somebody who wants to be an innovation leader, who wants to make sure that by having your solution in their portfolio, they can position themselves as the innovative consultant who's much smarter, much more advanced, much more state of the art than the other ones. The big mistake, which I see regularly, is that startups want to partner with the big ones. Whether it's I want to partner with Salesforce or Adobe on the product side, or I want to partner with McKinsey or Accenture or Deloitte. I was just like, I wanted to date Angela Jolie when I was younger, but Angela Jolie never wanted to date me.
Really?
Right? No, I'm actually fortunately because I'm married for more than 20 years. So I believe in strong relationships, long-term relationships, also in my personal life. I'm very happy that I didn't even have a chance to bother Angela. But the point here is, I guess you understand already, is like, even though you want to partner with Accenture, they don't care for you. And it's very harder to find somebody in Accenture who takes the risk of putting a new product to the market than with some smaller boutique agency. You might be lucky. One of my clients, they have one of the big four general partners in their board. Of course, he can open a lot of doors, and that helped them tremendously. But if you're not that lucky, if you do not have that senior partner from one of the big in your board, it will be very cumbersome, especially in the beginning. So focus on the one which are on your level.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't be about doing a favor to someone. This can be a trap. There can be a pitfall in this. You need to make sure, even if you know somebody, let's say in a bigger potential partner company, there is some business interest. Yeah, cannot be about doing a favor.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely fair point. The point is, on the other hand side, even if you have a great value proposition for this person, reaching anybody in a big corporate and making them changing their standard procedure is a very tough game.
Yeah.
So there was a saying, from the UK, people were dying trying to sell to IBM or British Telecom. And this is unfortunately can be true if you try to work your way directly into this. Mm-hmm. So my recommendation is always find the smaller one, the hungry ones, the innovative ones, which are also not restricted by having very strict internal frameworks and procedures. who are ready to give you a chance if you have a great value proposition, which is the precondition, as you said, completely right. And then make them, the big ones, nervous because they're losing pitches against the small ones, which have your solution in their pocket. Then they will come to you and say, oh, wait, okay, who's that guy? Who's that product, which, we lost deals.
We are coming to the end of the episode. I think we could talk much more. I've got one last question. Let's just elaborate a little bit about tech stack. I've noticed there's some development in this area to leverage partnerships with technology. Do you have any recommendations or any things that should be taken into account there?
This could still fill another episode. I try to keep it short. One warning specifically for that typical audience. You may come across fantastic solutions like Reveal or Crossbeam, one talking about Nearbound, the other one talking about ecosystem that grows. Both are very strong things which can help you, but don't fall into the trap thinking you just buy that software and then magic will happen. It's all about having a good concept, a good idea and a value proposition. Because in the end of the day, both Reveal and Crossbeam are account mapping tools. If you just use them to map accounts which you want to target, which one of your partners, and then you just have your SDR doing an outbound cold call, or ask your partner repeatedly to, can you do an intro? You will burn this relationship. Yeah. So really be mindful about how do you use this additional opportunity in a meaningful and partnership way.
I think that's great advice. Thanks for joining us today. I think there was a ton of value we could provide with this episode to our audience. Thanks for sharing all the actionable insights. Huge shout out to all our listeners. Your support means the world to us. Remember to check out our website at speakrevenue.com for its full transcript and additional resources. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you go for your listening needs. It really helps get the word out. Also follow us on LinkedIn and Insta or on YouTube. We'll be back soon with another great guest. Until then, stay curious and keep listening.